Hello everyone, this is Common Cues.
Today's question asks, does Islam allow slavery? Slavery is commonly believed to be an outdated form of forced labor that belongs to history. Although slavery was meant to end through the signing of an international treaty in the Berlin Conference in 1885, researchers believe that there are approximately 21 million enslaved people around the world. But only few know that one man, Prophet Muhammad, started a revolution against slavery some 1400 years before this date. A revolution that was only partially successful because not all Muslims abided by Islam's laws. Islam, from its onset, has slowly but constantly tried to abolish the institution of slavery and has been the only religion, to date, that has prescribed the liberation of slaves as a virtue. In fact, to the spirit of Islam, slavery is extremely offensive because all humans are equal before God in Islam, and they only differ by piety. But you might ask then, why didn't Islam abolish slavery from the get-go but preferred a gradual approach? To understand this, we need to first understand that slavery up until then was a widely accepted practice that had deep roots in the pre-Islamic world. This is why Islam recognized that abolishing the custom immediately would be highly unsuccessful. Before Islam, fathers or grandfathers owned their children and could sell, gift, or swap them for other people. Also, rulers or chiefs in armies owned their citizens or soldiers and could enslave them at will. And finally, and most oftenly, war captives automatically became slaves or faced whatever future their captors desired for them. The first thing that Islam did was to restrict the acquisition of slaves. Guardians and rulers no longer had the right to enslave anyone or to own their offspring or the people under their domain. Islam did, however, keep the last cause of slavery and allowed war captives to be kept as slaves, but drastically restricted this also. The sole reason for keeping this cause of slavery was because it was feared as to what captors would otherwise do to their captives if they could not keep them as slaves. So in order to preserve the lives of captives, this cause was not abolished straight away. Rather, Islam restricted this point differently by A. Ordering the extreme humane treatment of prisoners, B. Enforcing an alternative to keeping them captives by making it a virtue to let captives go, and C. By enforcing the law that prisoners could buy themselves free by performing a good deed. In this example, the captives of the very first Islamic battle, Badr, were to be set free if they would teach 10 Muslim children to read and write. The second approach to eradicating slavery through Islam was to lead an active campaign in order to emancipate slaves. In this way, Islam ordered freeing a slave as compensation for having committed a small sin. For example, to make up for not fasting a day in the holy month of Ramadan for no legitimate reason, the person had to free a slave and re-fast that one day after the holy month. Islam also declared that if a slave's master was to die, or if the slave became handicapped or blind, then the slave would automatically become free. If a slave woman bore a child while working for her master, she was not allowed to be sold, and neither was her child. In the case that she bore a child by her master, then the child was to automatically attain the status of the father. The Quran also clearly states that it is obligatory for a Muslim to help slaves to get freed if they wish to be. Through Islam, slaves did not only get the right to sue their masters in cases of maltreatment, but also the right to go into a written emancipation contract with their masters that would record the terms for ransom agreed upon by both parties. These terms could include the small sum of money or the service and its time period for completion. If all else failed, then the Prophet, as a last resort, ordained that slaves who wished to be freed would reach freedom through him, and the ransom would be paid through the public treasury. Lastly, Islam, in order to fully eliminate slavery, restored dignity to slaves by enhancing their social status. Within Islam, there was no difference between slaves and free men, and no difference between race, color, occupation, or status. This became most clear during the daily prayers in which slave, master, soldier, and leader would pray shoulder to shoulder in one unified direction. It's interesting to know that some very well-known and respected early followers of Islam were slaves. All in all, Islam took a gradual approach to the elimination of slavery because it believed in giving the freed slaves also an adequate means of living after they were released. It believed in the emancipation of slaves in order to increase their social status even before they were freed, and finally, it believed in transforming not only the lifestyle of the slaves but also changing society to prevent slave trade from being reinitiated. If you have any other questions, don't forget to ask us, and remember, your question is our question too.